Someone asked me recently what strategies I would recommend as far as keeping blood sugar balanced. So first, I would probably approach it from a couple different angles. First, I would, ask questions like, what kind of metabolism does a person have? Meaning some people burn carbohydrates primarily, some people burn fat, some people burn protein. If you're like a fat or a protein burner and you're eating a bunch of sugar, your blood sugar is just going to be all over the place. Flip side, if you're, eating lots of fat, lots of protein, and you're a sugar burner, I don't know, it's probably going to be imbalanced too. I can't really say because I'm the kind of person that burns fat and protein primarily, so for me to eat a bunch of sugar, a lot of carbs, just throws me all over the place unless it's balanced with enough fat and protein, which is a strategy that you might want to look at. You might want to say, what am I eating, and then finding the ratios that work the best, because it's usually not just like one food group or one food or one simple thing. It's usually a combination of a couple different things. So for me, I find I really had to dial in at least and look at my meals and realize that I needed to balance the things out and get a good combination of, fats, of protein and carbohydrates in one sitting, so that I would, have long-term sustained even energy, and that I wouldn't just like get full and then just crash, which is what tends to happen for me if I just eat carbs without balancing it right. Like if I just eat if I just eat fruit, it's bad news. Like I'm just up and then boom, it's just like headache, fogginess, blood sugar crashing. It's terrible. But if I have something, say or if I eat just like a bunch of rice, same thing happens. But if I eat rice and have it with like some fat or some protein at the same time, it's just even and much more balanced. So that's one thing to look at. Just examine yourself and see what kind of metabolism you have. Second would be maybe like herbal strategies to look at for herbs that are known to regulate and maybe even improve blood sugar balance and metabolism. So the first few that come to mind would be like cordyceps, reishi. Reishi probably would be the top. It's been pretty well researched. I think cordyceps has as well, but I don't remember off the top of my head. Probably any of the mushrooms would be good for that, because they have, some of them have the modulating properties on the blood sugar and on like the metabolism of glucose, as far as regulating the liver and the cellular uptake and stuff. But they also have the polysaccharides, which polysaccharides are still sugars, but they're not sweet, and they're sugars that burn over a long period of time, so they burn like long sustained energy, whereas something like a simple sugar like an apple or something, it's quick energy, it's immediately available to the body and it just burns it up. It's like putting a piece of paper on a fire, it's just going to burn up and it's gone, whereas polysaccharides are more like sticks and logs, where you put them on a fire, it takes a while for them to burn. Now obviously medicinal mushrooms can't be a huge calorie source, because you can't really eat them or take massive quantities of them, but they can be somewhere in the equation to help out. Another thing that seems to help out, at least for me, is schizandra berries. Whether that's in a tincture or a tea or whatever, just taking it over a period of time, I notice things just stay more balanced. So those are the things that really help me out and have helped me out, because I used to have a lot of blood sugar issues, as far as just getting really tired or just crashing or eating the wrong thing and just being up and down. Because, I ate Pop-Tarts and Gatorade and fast food every day for 10 years or something. So of course, top that off with all the cookies and cakes and ice creams and everything else that I consumed every day, had some pretty serious potentials to just have really serious blood sugar issues. So for me, I really don't consume much sugar. I don't really eat much fruit, berries in the summer, goji berries from time to time, raw honey in drinks and chocolates and stuff, but that's a much smaller amount than carbs, just like quinoa and wild rice and millet and things like that, but that's always balanced with fat and protein primarily. That's just a couple things that come off the top of my head. Exercise is a really important part of blood sugar, and realizing that if you're more active, you're gonna have to eat more. Because it's happened to me a few times where I was like really active, but I didn't eat enough, and I just had like a total freak out, and it was totally bad news. So I definitely learned from that experience a couple times. It wasn't it wasn't too pleasant, but so if you're more active, you obviously need to eat more. You need to remember to eat more. You need to remind yourself to eat more to feed your metabolism, because the fire is stoked, so you have to feed it. But then you have to figure out the right things to feed it based on asking yourself, what kind of metabolism do I have? Do I burn fat? Do I burn protein? Do I burn carbohydrates primarily? But again, it's just a balance of the three. I don't recommend any like crazy 80-10-10 thing of like eating insane quantities of sweet fruit. I mean, if you're like an athlete or you're in a place where that makes sense, obviously do it. But I live in Kentucky and it's like 20 degrees outside, so for me to sit down and eat a big bowl of like bananas and mangoes doesn't make any sense to me at all. So I don't do that, obviously. So yeah, that's what comes to mind for that. Those are some strategies I'd recommend. Final thing would be, some kind of movement and exercise first thing in the morning to keep yourself even, whether that's yoga or qigong or whatever you're into. I just tend to prefer like some martial arts and yoga and meditation, things like that. Those are just fine. Those are just for me in the morning to be like balancing. And then also like yoga can have tonifying properties to the pancreas, to the liver, to the whole digestive organ and the whole body in general. So that might be something to look at as well, because often in Ayurveda they prescribe, certain yoga postures for like peacock or cobra or bow or things like that to tone up the abdominal organs. Speaking of Ayurveda, a couple of things come to mind like cinnamon and ginger and cardamom and coriander and cumin, like all of those spices. And a lot of those, especially cinnamon and ginger, known to have like blood sugar modulating properties. Also, holy basil comes to mind as a good herb for blood sugar balance. So the herbs would be medicinal mushrooms, reishi, cordyceps, and then schizandra works for me. I don't know if there's any studies that say that it does that. I haven't researched it recently. And then holy basil comes to mind, and that one has been researched, and it's a major adaptogen. So just theoretically, I think all the adaptogens would be good, but it's just what comes to mind now. So if you have any other questions or comments, post them below, and I'll talk to you soon.